Hello and welcome to Scribes and Songsters. I'm Veronique Mandel. Chris Carter is a local historian who writes books about the history of Essex and Kent Counties. His readers can use his books to give themselves self-guided tours to explore our area's back roads, centuries-old cemeteries, forts, wineries, and other amazing places. Welcome to Scribes and Songsters.
Well, thank you for having me. And boy, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Going to all those places, but they're fun, aren't they?
Yeah, I know. I've had great fun touring your books, I must say. And before we get to having you take us on a tour through these books, tell us a little bit about your background. You're from this area?
Yeah, the first 10 years I was in London. And then we moved to Windsor and settled in Walkerville. And I went to Begley and then Walkerville and St. Clair and got transferred all over the province with my career and came back.
What was your career?
Retail management.
Oh, wow.
But it was a 7-year apprenticeship course. So the apprenticeship course pretty much moved every year to continue on in it, right?
So you got to know a lot of places.
Oh, yeah. And you get a lot of different ideas. And one of them was the tour book thing.
Wow.
It's a little bit different. Like mine's, the idea is there, but not so much the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you move out to the county?
When we came back, we'd pretty much always been in small towns. And that's part of going up the ladder, right? You get a little place and then you get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
So the last place I had gone up to Huntsville to open the Huntsville Place Mall and the Zeller store at that time. And so, when we came back home, then we decided we didn't want to put the kids in the large city. I did that from when I came in from the 60s into the 70s when we moved here. And it was a little overwhelming to go from an 8-room school, because you had 8 classes.
Yeah.
And it was a little subdivision school to Begley had 3 floors and a basement and
very different.
Quite a mix of students and teachers. And it was it was a huge difference.
So when did you get involved in writing? Is that something you've done your whole life?
No, actually, nobody else would do it for me. So what I wanted to do was I got interested in history when I was very young. Mm-hmm. And then at Walkerville, I think I took every history course you could. And it must have been about 8 or 9 that I took in my 5 years there. And then I thought, you know what? Let me try something. I can write a good history paper. Yeah. So I hate telling people I'm an author, but I am, obviously.
Yes.
But when you're out on these tours, they're meant to be the Saturday afternoon drive. But please, if you have to take, or the Sunday afternoon, right? Mm-hmm. After church drive that we all used to take, please take your time. Stop at the places. If it takes you a month of Sundays, that's even better, because look at all those fine things that you mentioned that you're going to fly by if you don't stop and enjoy them.
Yeah.
Even stuff that's not there, like a pop-up market or something. Yeah, do that stuff and worry about finishing the book another day.
So where did you get the idea of doing a tour? I mean, lots of people write history books, but they just write the history. But this is different. I mean, this is a tour you take a tour through the book.
I sort of said it already. I'll be very honest. I could not write that kind of book. Okay. Not at all. I can't write a novel because I can't think of stories, and definitely can't write a nonfiction book like that. So, but what I can do is write little snippets on places to see. I saw a book that came out like that up in Huntsville. I took the idea only. Other than that, it doesn't even look anything like it or set up anything like it. But I took the idea of, hey, this is a driving tour. I can go around and show you some things. So, yeah, that's how I got started. And also about the same time, it's on the front of the book, the Herald Trolley came out.
Yes.
And they were doing the same thing, right? They were trying to get people from the city out to the county. And because everybody would come out and take a certain pass so they didn't get lost. And I mean, it's all different now with GSP, of course, the maps in your cars and everything else right on computer.
I still have friends who get lost.
And you still can. So that was the other idea, was get people out into the county and used to the roads. And the wineries, of course, came along at the same time. So that really helped. And now there's all kinds of beer places and all kinds of other places out there besides the wineries.
Indeed.
And we have a lot of the wineries now, and they're good quality.
They are wine. Really good. I love a lot of our wines. Yeah. So let's start with the book, The Lost Communities. What constitutes a lost community?
A lost community, or even a ghost town, because I did write a book on the ghost town. And what it is, it's based on population. Okay. So, and also the lost communities part of it is all those four corners all over the place. There's a place just down the road here in Kingsville. There's a church in the middle of a cornfield. Why is that there? That doesn't make sense. Is it New California? Doesn't make sense. Well, it did at the time, because if you go around the corner, there was a schoolhouse. And of course, probably a general store. I don't believe there was ever a post office in that community, but that's the place where the farmers would come and congregate. They'd come to the church. They could go a couple miles to get to their church, but they couldn't go much further because one of the time and transportation, but also they couldn't leave their farms too long.
Right.
So we have all these little places. I never count. So I got 50 some places in there. A few places, they say, well, you miss it. It was the corners. It was so many corners. Yeah. And the only thing you did there was, well, you go to this corner and turn. Bakersville is one of them. It's just a corner. The guy said, hey, why don't you seem to be the mayor here and your name's Baker. Why don't we just put up a sign that says Bakersville? The only place that's Bakersville is his little garage. That was it. Nothing else. So that's what I mean. There's a few of those little things that may not be there because, well, they were so-and-so corners. Why? Well, they lived on that corner. You had to turn there to go to wherever you were going, right?
Now, were there names of communities that you had never heard about as you were researching this?
Yeah, there was quite a few. One place, there's many reasons to come up with names. And one of them is actually Windfall. Yeah, it was all marshy. A group of immigrants came in from, I can't remember exactly what country at the moment, but they came in, so they all settled in that one little area. But why'd they call it Windfall? Well, high wind or tornado came through and knocked all the trees down. Windfall. But what was the neatest thing about it? I actually found a book that was written about it.
No kidding.
It was, one of those little pamphlet books, maybe about 20 or 30 pages or something. But it had to have had a church, because it was written by the church women. But I haven't found where it would be. But so there's still lots of things to do.
Yes.
To find these things. But there's we have Klondike and New California and all those, again based on somebody's trip to the gold rush. Either down in California or up in our Yukon, and it was based on that. He came back and saw our gold. Anybody know what our gold is? No? The wheat.
Oh, of course.
It's the golden wheat.
Yes.
So he called the place. Like you say, there's 3 or 4 that all have that name. Another one, Young Ireland, same reason. Bunch of when we had the potato famine, they all came over, settled in one area, Young Ireland. Yeah.
I always find it fascinating to do what you've done, to go back and find out why a town has the name that it does. And listening to your stories, it really sort of makes things more interesting to know, how they came up with those names.
And that's exactly it, and Harrow was called Hopetown at the very first.
Was it?
Well, because you couldn't, the runaway slaves that came to Amherstburg, they couldn't stay on the water edge because the bounty hunters could come as fast as they could. So they actually purchased a piece of land back where downtown Harrow is, and they had a road going there, and it said to their purchase. So it wasn't even a road; it was a little trail because you don't want it out where everybody can see it, right? And so it was Hopetown. Think of why would you be Hopetown if you were a runaway and we're starting a new life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's interesting. Yeah. It's neat stuff.
So let's hop on the trolley. And let's sort of take a trip through this book, The Lost Communities. Where will we stop first?
Well, what I've done is on that book's a little bit different in the way I set up the tours. The tours basically will take you in a circle because we want to get you home safe and on whatever topic I wrote about. That one there, I decided you're all over the darn place. There's no rhyme or reason to try and lay out a path without everybody getting everybody totally confused, including me. So what I did is I put the corner they were on, and I did it by the old townships. So you may have to go back a little bit if you don't know the old townships. Like Lakeshore has 3 townships in it. Colchester and Gosfield are only 1, but there was a north and a south in both of them. Mercy is only 1. Amherstburg has 2, right? And LaSalle comes in with South Sandwich and that type of thing. But yeah, you have to go back to the old township, which I have a map in there, an 1880 map of the old township. And you just, if you follow that, and everybody now has a thing in their car, that they can follow so they can punch in that intersection.
Right.
If they can't do it any other way.
Yeah.
Just punch in the intersection. But it gives you a pretty good description on how to get to these places. It's just, I figured with that one, somebody can take a township and they could do a township in an afternoon if they want. And again, make your stops at all the nice tourist sites along the way. You're in Main Street. You're down by the river in Amherstburg. You got to get some ice cream and go through Navy Park.
Now, do you have favorite places in this book, The Lost Communities?
Not so much as the stories that go with them.
So some of your favorites?
Each of them is unique. I mentioned Windfall. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Olinda's in there, which is probably the top of the line for favorites because of what it was. And
we'll talk about Olinda in our next tour.
We'll talk about that later. Yeah. And a place like Hopetown. Some of them were just 4 corners. And I basically mentioned some of because they were popped in my head because they're part of my favorites, but just some of the unique names. Mm-hmm. And the same coming down the old railroad into Leamington. It had some pretty neat names on that coming down there that were stops, and they were stops because there was communities there. And Windfall was one of them, and Waggle Station, and that's, like you say, though it's their stories that make them unique. It's the stories that make them fun to learn about. But yeah, a few favorites, sure.
Yeah. Now, you also talk about a lot of people. Who were some outstanding people that, you wrote about?
It depends on the area. There was quite I had a lot of fun with the people with Anderton. It was the reserve for the Wyandots. Mm-hmm. And there are different divisions because the Wyandots, there's 3 or 4 different names for them. And there was some neat people in there that did some really unique things in their day. One became a baseball player, and he hit 11 home runs in a game. You can imagine.
Wow.
Just to get up 11 times. So every time he got up, he hit a home run.
That's pretty spectacular.
It is. And he's in our Hall of Fame. We have a Hall of Fame here, right? The Essex County Hall of Fame. He's in there. Apparently, he's in St. Mary's, which is our baseball Hall of Fame. I don't know if he's in Coopertown or not, but he's in their record book. And, we had a gentleman, Chief Splitlog, settled in there. The train track went from Essex through to Gordon, which is part of Amherstburg now, and then across over to the U.S. And Splitlog was a stop on there. And one of his sons became the first millionaire native Indian in all of North America. And they say his private car, because he started his own train, his private car was more expensive and much nicer than the King and Queen of England of the day. So
these are, such
these
cool
are
stuff.
The things that you learn. And I can go through every single township and talk about a few of those things.
So in this Lost Communities, what's not to miss? If someone said, okay, if I haven't got much time, what is not to miss?
I wouldn't miss it, Anderton.
Okay.
Okay, you've got to do that. People sometimes have the wrong opinion of groups of people and nations. Like they had a cranberry marsh that worked. Hiram Walker's tried a cranberry marsh north of Harrow, and it didn't go.
No. Yeah.
And he would have had a lot more money with him and other stuff that he should have made it go, and it didn't. They had a quarry going. Before we settled here in the 1700s, their quarry was going. So I think that township alone opens people's eyes to what was going on, and with that population of people that were here long before us. So
let's hop off that trolley and get on another one. And
we did have two.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. And so let's take a trolley tour through Olinda, Essex County's only ghost town. So tell me about some of the stuff in this ghost town, and why is it called a ghost town?
Okay, I mentioned a little bit earlier, a ghost town is not based on what's there today. It's based on the population.
And so
and that's very important, is the population and what it was, why it was built there and what they did there.
Yeah. So what population? Does it have to have like 6 people, 10 people, or like how many people constitute a ghost?
It's not how many you have. It's what, like, a ghost town, it might have had 3,000 people in it. So it's not going, I mean, that's when it was in its heyday.
Yeah.
Now you go through, there might be 20.
Ah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's repurposed from why it was built. And that's a ghost town. Okay. So whether it's 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 even, but if there was 500,000 people and there's only 50 left, and you got a whole town around you that 500,000 people, it's a ghost town. You're not going to see too many people.
Yeah.
So you can walk through and spend a whole day there and not see a person.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it. It has nothing to do with
the supernatural.
Although about a year after my book was written, somebody found an article in a newspaper that mentioned the spooky ghosts. So I think, when I updated that book, I added that story in there, but it has nothing on what a ghost town is.
Excellent. That's cleared up. Now, there are some things in here that I made a list of things that I wanted to ask you about.
Yeah.
You talk a lot about the schoolhouses. That was really interesting.
Yeah, in Olinda, what was unique? Olinda, we haven't really discussed what it did, but it had money. It had wheelbarrow fulls of money.
And where'd that come from?
The mine. It had a mine.
What kind?
Excuse me, an iron mine.
Oh, wow.
And it's still there today. It just got to the point where it wasn't worth working it anymore. Yeah. And iron still hasn't got high enough in price to go work it again. But if you go through the fields there, you can pick up iron, like chunks of iron, where every bit of dirt you pick up, and even in your backyard, there's going to be some iron in it. But I mean, this is chunks of iron.
Yeah.
And there's also a few dinosaurs buried there too. But the thing is, it was a mining town. It had tons of money. So
lots of kids.
And some kids, yes, because a lot of the miners were single, right? But they had families naturally. It was a town.
Yeah.
But the point is the kids, yes, they had to go to school. First of all, it was in somebody's house. And then they built a schoolhouse. And that one didn't last too long. They built a nice, strong one that would never go anywhere until they bulldozed it, of course. But what was unique about there is back in the 1800s and even the early 1900s, they would hire usually a young girl that was maybe 18 to 23 or 4, not married. And that young person would come and be the teacher through the season. And then at summer, they would go home. Well, when they were there through the season, one of the families, she'd bill it. I'm using a she because I mentioned a girl.
Yes.
But boys too. But the young girl or the young lady, I guess, would bill it at somebody's house, maybe even moving every month to a different house.
Wow.
But the parents from the school, right? Remember, this is a one-room school, so there's maybe only 10 or 15 families at best. Anyways, they would build it there. But this place had so much money, they actually built this teacher their own house.
That's a lot of money in those days.
House. Oh, it was a ton of money. It was brick. It was double brick all the way up. It was as good as, well, it was better than what the miners were in, but it was as good as the residents that were there at that time. A lot of them were still in log cabins. And here they had a nice fine brick house for a teacher, which was absolutely unusual.
Now, the Olinda store.
Right.
So do you have it in the Transportation Museum, or is it, Heritage Village, or is it a replica? No, it's the
exact one. That was built on what today is the Olinda Side Road.
Where's that?
And it's just off the old Highway 3.
If
you come from Ruth, I always tell people Highway 3 used to end at the Ruthven Road. You turned and went into Leamington. Well, if you go towards Lake Erie, about a mile and a half down, you're in Ruthven. So if you turn north instead, you're a mile and a half from Olinda. So it's the 5th concession and the Olinda Side Road.
Wow.
Of Gosfield.
Now, I also found stop number 9 on the trolley. That's where you talk about the mastodon discovery.
Yeah. And the mastodon's still there. The Windsor Science Museum would love to have it, but nobody has the money to dig it up.
Oh, wow.
But we know it's there.
How do you know?
Boys are curious like anybody else on a farm, even way back then.
Yeah.
And out of the ground, like rocks come out all the time out of the ground, so they get pushed up. And out of the ground came a tooth. And another time it was, I believe it's part of a tusk or a piece of a leg bone or something. Anyways, I can't remember which, but one of them went to the mother said, well, we can't keep these. We got to take them into the public. So one ended up at Fort Malden and the other piece ended up at Point Pelee. And from there, I have no idea what happened to them. But the thing is that yes, people would like it and they don't just want to dig it up. They don't have the money.
Right.
With our science. So if somebody has money and they want to help our science center, we'll help you and show you where it is.
Yeah. So you heard it here.
Okay.
You can go dig up a mastodon here in Essex County. Just bring the funds.
That's right. And
excellent.
They'll gladly accept it. If you're real adventurous, I'm not sure exactly where it is, but Leisure Lake campground. If you're on the Albuna town line and you look at Leisure Lake, somewhere half a mile behind the campground, there's a saber-toothed tiger.
Really?
I just don't know exactly where. Maybe on the Bruner Road. I think the other one's Hope Lane or something.
So does that need to be dug up?
Pardon?
Is it dug up or needs to be?
No,
needs to be.
Yeah, but I can't point you to that one.
Right.
You'll have to talk to the locals.
And you also talk about the Indian cemetery, and older native cemetery.
Yeah, that was pretty unique. There was a line running into Leamington, and they wanted, as you know today, it's all limestone and it's all quarries. They're sand and gravel quarries. Well, because of that, the CP went and saw the people in the area because they want some stone and gravel for the Windsor Tunnel, the train tunnel. And so they put a spur line off the train track that, again, went down to Leamington, north and south. And they put that on and they dug out their gravel. Well, they dug into a cemetery and nobody knew it was there. Nobody, not even the Aboriginal people, the nations that were here at that time. When they found them, it got in the newspaper one week that they found them. It got in the newspaper the next week. That's all we ever heard about it. And that's the only reason we know that it's there, because nobody now knew it was there. Generations story didn't get told, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, apparently at the time, the Aboriginal people that are here today said, "Oh, we don't know. That's not us. That's earlier."
Wow.
So yeah, they were the late Woodland, which is, you're talking 1500 time period.
That is amazing.
And the other unique thing about it is the skeletons were like 8 feet tall.
What?
Yes.
They were giants.
They were giants. And we've got evidence along the way that that was like that across North America.
Well, this is just fascinating, but the tour is coming to an end. The Colchester Village School, was that significant?
It's more significant, or it's not as significant as what the current people are thinking it is, but it was a town school. Colchester was built in 1792. It's the oldest community in Essex County, oldest planned community. And the French were on the north side of the county where they Campsie and all that area. So they've settled the British along the bottom. That was the school for everybody from Division Street in Kingsville all the way down to it's County Road 41 now. People call it the Meadows Road, although the Meadows is stripped down.
Yeah.
And it's 90-some families, and that was the school. And it was mixed with people of color and the local population. And that's what made it a little different at that time.
Right.
But Colchester is the oldest planned town this side of Kingston.
Wow.
In Ontario. The only one that can use the same date is Niagara-on-the-Lake, which was Newark at the time, because they were both drawn and designed by the same person for the same year. Every other community that's not just a pop-up community, that's a planned place, even like Windsor and Sandwich and Amherstburg, are all newer than that.
You have a lot of cool information. Where can people buy your books?
They can buy it at the Canadian Transportation Museum in Heritage Village, and they can buy it at Juniper Books. And wherever I pop up in the county and a friend of mine is selling them themselves, they're around. I'm not that hard to find. Everybody knows me.
Awesome.
It's touressex.ca.
Okay. Thank you so much for taking me on the tour.
And I hope you enjoyed it. And there's lots to learn. And
yes.
The thing is, it's fun.
It certainly is. And it would be really wonderful for you to take the tour through Chris's books. And unfortunately, that's it for this edition of Scribes and Songsters. Thank you to our very informative guest, Chris Carter, for his great tour of Essex County. Thanks to our Scribes and Songsters team, producer Liz Pettipies-Phillips, technical producer and editor Gary Glass, social media manager Misha Fortier, and consultant producer Brian Sweet. Grateful thanks to Tony Toldo and the Toldo Foundation, and to Neil and Tina Queering for their support. Thank you for watching. Hope to see you soon, right back here on Scribes and Songsters. I'm Veronique Mandel. Bye for now.